Look for your deeper reasons, because when things get rough, that's what's going to matter. That's what's going to pull you through. Those deeper whys in why you spend your time the way you do. Why are you the person you are? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. However, we all spend that time incredibly differently. And today I'm spending some time thinking about how I spend my days, how I use up those hours, and kind of where the priority is in that time. Like, there's a whole grand kind of arc behind your schedule and your priorities and everything else, and it always dominoes through your life. But we don't always take that time to think about it and how we're spending our time and which kind of buckets we're filling in life. So today I am going to sit down and do that, and hopefully this gives you an opportunity to do the same for yourself and gives you a chance to kind of just take a real hard look at how you are spending your time. You might be spending your time as wisely as you could, but you might be dropping the ball. And for most of us, it's probably the latter. So I think it's something we could all spend some time to think about. So let's go get into it. What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. On this episode, I'm thinking about how we spend our days, how we spend those 24 hours we each get every single day. And honestly, if I'm starting to use myself as the guinea pig as always, it varies. Like, some days I am productive as anything and I make use of every single minute in the day, or at least it feels like it. And other times, I am the slowest creature on this planet. And I'm not sure if there's an in-between. And I think because I push so hard on my busy days, it exhausts me on those other days where I'm just like, I just want to do nothing. Or even if I'm not exhausted, I feel like I've earned a rest and earned a time to do nothing. But it creates this kind of peaks and troughs throughout the week. Like, whereas if you just look at any one particular day, I'm either good or bad. Whereas look at it over a week and it tends to mediate out a little bit more, and it might be, okay, cool, you've had a decent week, or you've had an okay week, or you've had a bad week. But because of how my life is structured, my week kind of has stages. Like, I have half the week I'm on dad duty, half the week I'm working, and I try to steal a sliver of time for myself here and there. Like, it's very chaotic for the most part. Realistically, a lot of my life I'm kind of the afterthought. So that's why doing episodes like this, where I kind of think about how I'm spending that time, is good and it is important. Like, I just found myself a decent routine while little one was at school, going to the gym again, and kind of finding that time for myself that didn't feel like it was taken away from anything else. And then half term hits and it's absolutely amazing to spend that quality time with my daughter again. But it does put my own, the things I was doing for myself, like going back to the gym and da-da-da-da-da, it does put that back on the back burner again for a week. But like I say, I'm more than happy to have that time with my daughter and kind of increase that time again, because when she started school, you go through that phase of like, you don't get to see him as much, and then you miss him, and then you just get into a habit of replacing that time and feeling like kind of you again, and then all of a sudden they're off school and then your routine's interrupted. So then you got to go back to them, and like, it's not to dismiss how important they are or how important the extra time is with your kids, but it's kind of like that inconsistency in self-care. Like, especially if you're a single parent, finally getting a little bit of time back to yourself that feels like you're not taken away from your kids, that is priceless, to put it into simple terms, because it's guilt-free. You don't feel like you're taken away from them. You don't feel like you've palmed them off on anybody or whatever else. Like, they're essentially doing something they need to do in their own life anyway. So if you can capitalize on that time, then when you go back to them, you feel even better for it. So when I have those days where I drop her to school, go to the gym, do some work on the pod, do this, that, and everything else, have a nice shower and nice lunch, and then pick her up from school, and everything that kind of made me feel good, I kind of managed to squeeze into in that time of school. And then once I started building a decent routine of that, I felt my kind of productive side kicking in again. And now school's kind of come back off. Well, she's off school. So now everything's a lot more dad duty, and I'm having to steal time around dad duty a little bit more. But like I said, I've missed having that time with her. So I'm in no rush to, yeah, I'm in no rush to kind of end dad duty. So I'm not trying to rush her off to bed or anything else. So the pod and the gym's out the window until I hit my work cycle, and then I'll go to the gym. But while I'm with her, like I'll make life work around her, no matter what. So having that school there as a routine where it's just like, cool, they're just going to take her for a couple of hours each day and give me some time to get some stuff done, it allows you to be incredibly productive. At least it does for me. But again, it it's up and down. It always varies. Like more often than not, yeah, I'm probably productive as anything. I'm always doing something. But I'm not always at my most productive. And looking at so there are times where I think about, I'll drop her to school, I'll come back home and that, freshen myself up, and I'm like, well, I could either go to the gym or I could just go back to bed and have a lazy day and have a couple of hours to myself. But the reality is, if I was to have those few hours to myself, unless I really need them, I'm just going to feel worse for it. Unless I really need that extra rest and I'm sleep deprived, I ain't been sleeping well or whatever else, I'll feel far better for going to the gym, having a decent meal, doing a couple of bits and bobs, maybe playing a bit of a game or whatever it is. Like I'll feel far better for doing stuff and having a laundry list of things that I've achieved than going, yeah, I've sat down and done absolutely nothing all day. And that's just for me. So the more time I take and look at how I'm spending my time and how I can improve as well. So when I first started this pod, a lot of the recording I was doing either before little one woke up or after she went to bed. And that meant it, my mind was always tired or it was just waking up. And while she's off school, I've kind of slipped back into that kind of default and that. But it's only for the week, but at the same time, like it's a lesson in kind of, we're so easy to slip back into the familiarities, whereas that new routine where she just started in full-time school and this and everything else, that was a new routine. I just got into the swing of things with going to the gym and kind of realizing how much I can get done in that time, and then it's paused. And that it's cool. Like I say, I'm more than happy to have that time back with her and that. But it does, mentally, it kind of trips you up a little bit. So for me, I'm very routine orientated. So once I'm in a routine, it's easy for me to keep that up. Once I'm out of a routine, it's easy for me to keep that up too. So I need to try to keep myself in those routines as much as possible. So this is why I'm trying to put like so much emphasis on this week of kind of interruption, shall we say, at least to the productivity side of things. Because that week of interruption, if you don't acknowledge it, you'll start beating yourself up for it. Like if I get to the end of the week and I'm like, oh, I ain't been to the gym this week, I ain't done this on the pod, I ain't done that, da 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 da, and really start kind of going hammer and tong on myself. Well, there's many reasons for that. And this is why it's important to take that time to look at how you're spending your time. Like I say, I do feel a little bit kind of gutted and a little bit down that this episode is a bit rushed and a bit last minute and everything's going to be a bit sporadic this week. But I have a genuine cause for it. Without that genuine cause for it, okay, cool, go nuts. But if you've got a genuine reason why life is kind of derailed a little bit, don't be so hard on yourself. Take it as it is. I used to say this to my clients all the time when I was a personal trainer. if they missed a session because they was ill or life was hectic or whatever else, and they'd be like, "Oh, John, I'm sorry, da da da." Like, look, life takes precedent. Like, if it was because you was partying or whatever else, cool, I'll have a go at you. But if life's been hectic, if you've been ill, if it's been something that is out of your control that you have to deal with, acknowledge that and accept it. Because that's not something that you need to kind of punish yourself for. And it's so easy to do so. So getting in that habit of looking at how you're spending your time and looking at why you've fallen off, and is there more to it than, oh, I've just fallen off, or I didn't feel like going that day, or whatever. There are so many kind of variables in life. There's so many different things that kind of what's the word? Just interact with your life, and if you're not aware of them, you can literally just see things spinning for no reason. But there's always a reason behind things. There's always that cause and effect, and the more you look for it, the better you'll get at looking for it. So take that time and find the cause and effect, because it is definitely out there. In all of our lives, there are things that make things happen. I said on another episode a long time ago, like when you drive past an abandoned building and see a piece of graffiti on the wall and smashed windows and everything else. There was a time in which it was just an abandoned building with no smashed windows and no smashed graffiti, no graffiti. But now it's there. There was a time in which somebody stopped there and done those things. You weren't there to observe that time, but somebody might have drove past that building before those events, and somebody might have drove past them after. So there might be somebody that can attribute to both times. And our life is like that. Like, how many people have been in your life that are there before the trauma and after the trauma? How many people know the acts of which that changed you? I know there's a few people in my life that know the man I was before I become a dad and the man I was after I become a dad. And there's people that knew me before I lost my parents, and there's people that knew me after I lost my parents, and there's people that knew me in this way and that way. And each of these instances, it kind of slowly changes the person that you are. It changes the things that you want in life and how you choose to spend your life. Like I say, for me, the biggest aspect of my life is my daughter. So she is the biggest kind of demand on my time, and rightly so. So everything revolves around her. When she was born, I literally said to myself, right, that is it. You only get to work half of the time. Half of the time is with her no matter what. And putting that hard line in the sand on my time and how I want to spend my time, don't get me wrong, it is a hard equation, and it does sometimes make things harder in terms of like work and da. But having that hard line in the sand gives you something to work towards, even if it's a little bit unreasonable in terms of like making you rush around or whatever else. If that's the goal that you set yourself, if that's the terms, do whatever it takes to meet them. Because without that, like for me, she is what makes life worth living. So if I ain't making her, spending time with her a priority, is life worth living? Like, everything else is to facilitate that. So that is my focus. That's why I work. I literally look at a picture of my daughter before I go into work to remind myself why I do the things that I don't always want to do. Because there is a cause far bigger than myself. And understanding how you spend your time and why you spend your time the way you do, that is going to help you navigate yourself. Like I say, I know if I'm feeling down about work and I'm just feeling like I'm grinding and just not mentally there, I'm just down, looking at a picture of my daughter and reminding myself why I do it all, it might not make things better. It might not make you feel amazing, but it at least gives you that deep why of why you're doing it. And as long as you've got that deep why, you can push on through anything. I once knew a guy that worked 2 jobs back to back. No, he had 3 jobs. He worked one with me doing like delivery removal kind of work. Then he went to work in a cafe after that, or a restaurant after that. And then he had a weekend job as well. And he still had like hobbies, like when playing football and things like that. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this? Like, you're gonna run yourself into the absolute ground. But he loved it. I mean, he had a cause. He was saving up for a house, and he put all the work in, and he grinded his butt off, and he got there. But it was because he worked that hard. He had a deep why, and he weren't gonna budge on how he was gonna get there. So find your why to your time. Why do you spend your time the way you do? If you spend your time scrolling on social media, ask yourself why. If you're music, ask yourself why. No matter how you spend your time, ask yourself why you spend your time like that. Look for your deeper reasons. Because when things get rough, that's what's going to matter. That's what's going to pull you through. Those deeper whys in why you spend your time the way you do. Why are you the person you are? Because of how you spend your time, more than likely. If you spend your time reading books and talking to people and thinking about things, you're going to probably be a more philosophical person. If you spend your time partying and socializing and drunk or whatever else, you're probably going to have a big social circle and this and like, however you choose to spend your time is going to domino out tenfold. Just like the people that you choose to spend your time with, it's going to domino outwards. So take that time to think about both of them. Think about how you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with, and kind of where you want your time to go. At the end of the day, we're all on a clock. It's all a limited time for all of us. So don't get caught up in the hustle and bustle of it. I know I went on a bit of a rabbit hole, but I hope some of you got to the end of this episode, because I think it did kind of pay off in that back end. But choose how you're spending your time. Be stingy with it at times. Be strict with how you spend your time. Don't be so flippant with it. At the end of the day, it's one of those things you can't ever get back. So be fussy. Choose how you spend your time. Don't just give it away willy-nilly. Understand your time is valuable. And especially if you're with people that don't see the value in your time, that's the biggest tell that you need a new group of people. Because they should see the value in you. You should see the value in you. So if you can't do that, or they can't do that, take some time working on those groups of people and working on yourself. Because your time is valuable. Don't just give it away. Don't waste it away. Actually do something with it. I'm going to wrap this episode up there. The seed for this episode is going to be: choose something that you currently do that is a waste of your time and actively try to squish it. Whatever it may be, if it's scrolling on social media blindly, if it's endlessly playing games, if it's watching series and movies, or whatever you deem to be a waste of your time, slowly start to work on it. Acknowledge it as a waste of your time. And you don't have to completely get rid of it. Like I say, there's things that I do that I consider a waste of my time. But I do them sparingly when I know that I've got time to waste, or when I know I need to switch off. And I'm far more kind of aware of them. And therefore it allows me to kind of mediate my life a little bit better and kind of make sure that I am getting things done. So if I am spending a bit of time kind of gaming or watching something and just kind of mindlessly drooling in front of a screen, it's more often than not planned for or accounted for. So I don't have to be so hard on myself. I don't have to be like, oh, I've wasted a whole day, da 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 da. So kind of take that time to think about how you're spending your time and then where you're wasting it. And slowly kind of make that time smaller. It don't even necessarily have to be smaller. Just make sure you're aware of it. So when you do waste time, you know how much time you've wasted. Because realistically, there's an old saying which I love, which is any time you enjoyed wasting isn't time wasted, which I wholeheartedly agree with. So if you enjoy wasting it, it's not wasted time. But again, there's many aspects to life. Some people can afford to waste more time than others. But be aware of how much time you're wasting, because we all have a limited time. So be aware of it. Don't let it kind of slip away from you. And I know for myself, there are some games that I could put on and I'm 6, 8, 10 hours are completely gone in my day. So I avoid those games unless I've got that kind of time to spare. But it's always that kind of learning curve in life. But anyway, I'm going to shut up and get out of it. All the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.